So to prepare your matcha mango Swiss roll, first thing that you want to do is prepare your exotic fruits marmalade. So I've already done that. I've got that behind me here. It's all prepared and ready to go. And I also prepared my matcha genoise sponge cake, which is cooling right now, and the cheesecake mousse. So now we're gonna put everything together. So I've gone ahead and got some fresh mangoes. Now I know not everybody can find fresh mangoes. You can substitute this for any type of fruit that you would like. And I want to cut them into about 1/2 inch or 1.25 centimeters, something similar to that, strips. Now I have my sponge cake, which has been cooling at the minute. We're gonna flip this over again. So I've just grabbed myself another sheet of baking paper. I'm gonna pop that over the top to help us flip it. Lift that off and then just carefully slide onto your bench. Keep that baking paper. Now we're just going to trim our edges a little bit just to create a more straight line, and if there's any harder bits on the edge too, you can just remove those. And I'm just using a cake knife or a serrated edge knife, and you just want to be very gentle. We don't want to squish our sponge cake. Just pop that in a bowl and let's do our other side. Now on one end, our short end, we're going to cut it straight. And then facing away from us, the other short end, we're going to cut it on an angle. And we're going to do this because as we roll up our sponge cake, it's going to allow it to sit beautifully just on the edge of the roll. So just on an angle, we're going to cut very carefully with our serrated knife. So we're creating kind of like a ramp. Just using a sawing motion, just take your time. So with the scraps, you can leave these outside to dry out and grind them into a powder and use them as garnish if you would like, or you can just snack on those. So that other sheet of baking paper, we're gonna put it at the end of our ramp. So the ramp part of our sponge is where it's going to finish rolling. So I'm just centering it on my baking paper. You can see we've got this baking paper and then the other one. One over a little bit, so it's going to finish on this other piece of baking paper. You want to try not to move your sponge cake too much because it is quite delicate. So now we can start filling our Swiss roll sponge. So we have our exotic fruits marmalade. I'm just going to cut the tip off. And we're going to create a nice thin layer on the base of our sponge. Now we have a nice even layer of our marmalade. We can start adding our cheesecake mousse. So we want to add this in stripes with a spacing in between. So furthest away from us, we want to make sure that we leave about 1 inch space before we do our first stripe of our mousse. And then in between each one, we're leaving about 1/2 inch or around 1 centimeter. Now you should have a little bit of your mousse left. You can save that for garnish later. Now you want to go ahead and clean your offset spatula, and we're going to carefully bring all of our mousse together. Now you've evened it out as best you can. We're going to go back to where our ramp is, and we're going to carefully just gradient down our mousse. So just spreading it down. So it's getting kind of thinner towards the end. Now we can start adding our mango. And I have it probably about 1.5 inches or so. So now we're going to carefully roll our sponge roll. Now we really don't want to be stretching or pulling it. We're just going to use the baking paper to help guide us. So the first part is getting it over that mango. Once you've got it nice and even over the mango, we're just going to use the paper to gently roll it. Just let gravity do the work. So as you can see, our wrap is just sitting right on the edge, which is perfect. Now I like to just tidy up the edges, just filling it in with a little bit of extra cream if needed. So I just like to take some cling wrap as well. And I'm going to keep that baking paper on because I don't want the cling wrap to stick. So we're just going to carefully roll that up. And then put the cling wrap over the top so it doesn't dry out. And just transfer that onto a cutting board or onto a tray and into the fridge for 4 to 6 hours for that cream to set up before you decorate and serve. So I've just had my matcha and mango Swiss roll in the fridge. I actually had it in there overnight. I actually prefer to prepare this a day ahead of time, so it just allows all of those beautiful flavors to get into that sponge and really infuse all the way through. So let's take it out now. So I like to just trim the ends, and I'm just using a cake knife with a serrated edge, just to make sure we've got a nice clean edge to our cake. And then it reveals inside all those beautiful mango pieces. So just wipe your knife after each slice, just so you get a nice clean cut. And of course, we have to have a taste test with our ends. Some for the chef. Oh, that's good. Now let's get this onto a plate. I like to get something that's kind of contrasting. So let's start decorating. So first off, what I like to do is find the center of my Swiss roll, and I'm just going to use just an offset spatula, or you can use a knife, something that's just going to allow you to create a little mark, just to give you a guide of where you want to pipe. And I've just made a mark down the center. And you can decorate these any way that you like. This is just an idea for you to try. Now yesterday I made some meringue straws, and I just put a little bit of the matcha powder on top. I'm going to use these to garnish as well. But you do want to keep in mind that you want to put these on just before you serve your dessert, because they will get soft in the fridge over time. So I just diced up some fresh mango and just mix that with a little bit of our exotic fruits marmalade, just so it will keep it nice and moist and stop it from drying out, and also give it some great flavor. I have some dried cake crumbs that you can also use for garnish, and I just like to sprinkle a few over. And there you have it, guys. That is our matcha and mango vegan Swiss roll.